Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Today we're gonna have a great video. We're gonna be talking about 5 reasons to have this one thing at your property, and it is gonna be something you need to get right now. If you have a small yard in the city, or if you live on the big wide opens of the rural areas, this is an investment that can benefit you. And we're gonna talk about those 5 reasons now, and then also jump into some situations where if you live in an apartment with no yard, what are some options for you? So let's jump right into it. Today's video is going to be a good one, and it starts right now. All right, so what is this awesome thing that you should be getting? It's a pretty easy answer, but the reasons behind it is really what I want to talk to you about. We're standing beside some of them. It is chickens. Now, before you turn this off, let's talk about why we should be raising chickens. And if you have a small yard or any size yard, if you have a piece of land, you can raise chickens in just about any size situation. Even in a lot of cities, you may not need a rooster. You hear a rooster in our videos all the time. Now, we're incubating eggs and we're trying to hatch more chickens. But in a situation where, you know, you're trying to keep it quiet, you're trying not to bother your neighbors, you wouldn't need a rooster. But having some hens is important. Having some chickens is important. Now, for some of those ones who live in the city, we're going to talk about another animal that could benefit you as well, that can be raised right inside or on a balcony. So let's jump into the 5 reasons of raising these animals, because it may surprise you of the importance of it. Number 1, it is price. Have you seen the price of chicken and eggs? Eggs has went up anywhere from 20 to 40% across supermarkets. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, what is, you know, it's still $3. It's just $4. They were only $1.25, so they're now $2. Do you realize that if all your groceries went up by 20 or 30%, even the smaller things, if Kool-Aid goes up from 25 to 50%, it doubled in price. If eggs go up from $1.25 to $2.50, it doubled in price. That doesn't seem like that's a lot, but when you start adding 30 things from your grocery up and they all have doubled in price, went up by a few dollars, went up by a few cents, then that ends up adding up tremendously. So the first and foremost reason to raise chickens, you could have a protein source of eggs that can give you a lot of good calories and good quality food. Secondly, the chicken itself. Now, when we talk about raising chickens for food, we raise 2 kinds of breeds. So we have the heritage breed that we keep in the tractors that are going around, what we call chicken tractors. That's the movable tractors that are going around our yards and going around our fields. That is for fertilizing our grounds, but also letting them forage on natural grasses. We are raising them for purpose of helping our farm. Now, these in the chicken house here are raised simply on deep bedding for fertilization. Right around here, for instance, we have the strawberries, the broccoli, and this beautiful garlic right here. So we use the chickens and we use the rabbits for that kind of thing. That is their fertilization. But we also collect the eggs out of the coop. Now, that is one set of chickens. Second set would be if you're raising conventional birds. Now, that may be something like a Cornish cross or a Freedom Ranger. Both of those are what we consider what we see in the supermarket. That is the, you know, the big breasted, beautiful fried chicken that you're gonna have, or the boneless chicken that we're gonna collect at Walmart, or see, he's happy about that. But that is a Cornish cross. We raise those. We have videos on that where we've butchered and processed. But the purpose of those birds are different. They are for meat. They are a meat purpose chicken. Freedom Ranger, same way. They're a little bit slower than the Cornish cross, but ultimately you're providing yourself meat. Now, you can't raise those indoors, we know, but you can raise chickens or Cornish cross meat birds just about any size yard by rotation or deep bedding. We have videos on that, but the chicken and the egg, both of those are very important protein sources, meat sources. When you're feeding them off your property and feeding them feed that you know that is quality, then you know what kind of food you're eating, which is good, healthy protein. So that is number 1. Now, on to number 2. So we talked about the price and the inflation of that, so that's why we say we're going to raise them. Secondly would be for the avian flu. Now, we have seen the government come in and kill over 50 million birds, which has made the price go up even more. Now, the thing about having your own eggs and having your own chickens, you take yourself out of those issues. You don't have to worry about, can I get enough birds? Because ultimately the grocery store doesn't have them because of the bird flu. Or the price is doubled because of the bird flu. Well, we take that part of the regulation out because if you're raising them at your home, no one may know you have birds, or you know they're contained and in a healthier environment. So you're raising them without thousands or 100,000s other birds like some of these big farms are doing it for conventional feeding and farming. So you are now in control of that food source, but also in control that they're not going to get sick and have some major issues. We raise all our birds strictly here, and we raise and incubate like we talked about with that rooster that keeps chiming off. The whole purpose is we want to contain our animal source and our meat source in that circle of life to know that we have a quality, clean, unsick bird that can provide us food. So that would be number 2. Now to number 3. Number 3 is a little different. The reason we talk about raising the chickens and raising the chickens for eggs is protein. When we talk about other meat sources, we see in the Netherlands, there's a story from Fox News, and I'm going to read it. It says the Netherlands has reportedly set to forcibly close 3,000 farms with the compliance of the EU mandate. Now, this was a story about a week ago. It says that they are getting bought out. The government is purchasing these farms intentionally to close them down in the name of green movement and clean energy. The problem with that is if we see our government pushing against the way we farm and the way we feed our families, then that's going to put us not in control of our own diets. That's going to put us where we may not can get other meat sources. So if we cannot get other meat sources, we have to fall back on what we can raise. Now, if we have lands, we're going to raise cattle, we're going to raise pigs, we're going to raise sheep like we're doing. But when you don't have that, when you live in a smaller subdivision and you have a half-acre yard or a 1/4 acre yard or a 1/10 of an acre yard, you have to look for small game. Well, if we all of a sudden don't raise that protein source and the government is now saying the bird flu is getting bad, we're raising prices. We can't raise these animals and we can't farm because of clean energy and global warming. Well, now they're controlling your diet. So when you raise those birds, you're not worried about some of those compliance issues. So by having the availability to have a protein or meat source at your home, you are now taking that step of worrying what the regulatory body is going to do and the permit system is going to do. Now, if you're trying to sell to other people, then that's permitting and licensing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about raising your own meat source, raising your own protein source. It is very important to not have to depend on the regulatory body to tell you what you can or can't eat when it comes to your protein. By having chickens and eggs, it's key. You have a way that you can provide for your family a meat source. I know a lot of people that raise big farms like us and homestead big areas where they have just about any animal you can think of. But then I know even more people who raise just chickens for the eggs to supplement their protein, raise chickens just for the meat to supplement their chicken and supplement their meat source instead of going to the grocery and buying it. It's a game changer, and it puts you a little bit more sustainable where you're not dependent on what the regulations are going to say. Number 4 would be, we kind of chimed in on it on these other points, but meat is getting to be almost a taboo thing in our world. We see governments and we see all these people pushing away. Meat and oil tends to be those two issues that is ruining our earth. Now, I don't believe that, and as a Christian, we believe God gave us these things, such as the fossil fuels or the chickens or the animals. But we see a movement away from that. So if we see a movement away from that, that means the prices of meat are going to soar. I did a video on this just a few days ago, how meat prices will soar in 2023 because of some of these policies. So all of a sudden we see meat inflation, we see the fact of regulatory bodies, we see the fact that the government is not condoning it, we see that the government is buying land. All that plays into the fact of, are you going to be able to even have meat? Because it's taboo, can you always buy meat? Is it going to be so expensive where, you know, lower and middle class can't buy it because it's bad for you? So you have to put all these carbon credits with it. So now your chicken is going to cost you $15 or $20 a pound versus, you know, $5 or $7 a pound. So that matters. Now we raise chicken, and when we raise our chickens, we're raising our chickens for usually anywhere from $1 to $2 per pound. That's very, very good. Now it could even be lower if you went with a different quality feed, but we try to stay in a non-GMO or organic feed. Same with eggs. Our eggs we're usually paying anywhere from $2 to $3 a dozen in the winter and in the fall seasons. In the spring and summer, we're probably paying less than 50 cents to 75 cents because we're laying a lot more. So you see the price is not fluctuated as much, especially if you're letting them forage a little bit. So back to this point of number 4. If the government is pushing against it, they're gonna make it harder for you to have those things. If global warming is pushing against meat, then you're gonna see more meat grown in warehouses and in controlled environments and petri dishes. There's been a study where Upside Foods is growing chicken out of petri dishes with chicken cells. That's a little gross to me. I'm sorry. So sustainability is one thing. Raising healthy birds is another thing. But now you're eating fake chicken. We've heard fake beef. Now we're seeing fake chicken. It's all of a sudden weird that all of a sudden the avian flu is here and 50-something million birds are dead. All of a sudden we can't get eggs because they're doubled in price, or they're down because of the avian flu and we've killed so many birds on the regulatory side. And now all of a sudden we're growing meat out of a petri dish and we're supposed to just eat it because it tastes the same. It's not how God intended it, and it's not going to be the quality and the same. Sorry. So number 4 would be, it's taboo. You're starting to see a movement away from meat, and this will help you not move away from meat. It helps you take care of your family. Number 5, we've read studies that showed right after the Depression, and you hear it now where people say, well, I can go hunt and I can go fish and take care of my family and have that protein source. Well, we saw that it was overhunted and overfished, and we lost a lot of that population during tougher times in America, especially around the Great Depression, especially even in older times dealing with the buffalo. All those issues have been talked about. So why I say that is number 5 is you can't always hunt and fish for your food. You can't always go out and process wild game. We're seeing states push against firearms. We're seeing countries in other states push against ammo sales, or having permits more, or the cost of permits are going up. I know for me to hunt, my permits go up every year. So if it comes to a point where that's unsustainable and that's not economical, then what's the other way of looking at it? Now I know when people say, well, when the crap hits the fan, it's not gonna matter. I'm just gonna go out and every man for himself. I understand that too. If it's overhunted and the population of deer or wild game or squirrel or rabbit go down, then what are you gonna do? If all of a sudden you don't have access to a lake or pond, or those are overfished again, what are you gonna do? So having a protein source at your home that does not cost a lot of money, that does not need a lot of space, is going to help you when the fact of permits, ammo, guns, and regulation takes over. All of a sudden something bad happens. We can't just fish and hunt our way out of the situations. Also, for the ones who live in the counties and the rural areas, we hear that more than anything. Oh, I can protect my family that way. However, there's now millions of people coming from urban areas to now go in the woods and do the same thing. Do you think that's safe? The safest thing is to be able to be home and to have the protein source here. So please understand the value of these chickens and the reasons you should be growing them. So now let's finish up and talk about one other option for some of you who live in even smaller areas, or have no yard, or live in an apartment and all you have is a balcony. Misty and I did a video about, it's probably about 9 months ago, talking about the #1 small homestead animal, and that would be rabbits. So you see, I did a video on chickens because of the price of eggs and the price of chicken, and that is what we typically eat in our culture and what we see at the grocery store. However, say for instance, you don't have a lot of room. Say you need something even smaller. Look at rabbits. Rabbits can grow indoors, in cages, in nice little habitats built just for them. Deep bedding, and it helps you use their manure the same way. We talked about this in another video where rabbits, they grow quick, They produce a lot of babies, and they produce very quick, and they can have several litters a year. That is very important. And if you're giving them deep bedding and you're giving them quality food, such as your alfalfas or your timothys or any kind of hay, you have no smell, you have no problems, they don't make any racket, and you can grow these on a porch, on a balcony, or even in your home. Now, I'm not saying grow 100 rabbits in your apartment, but I am saying you could have, you know, maybe a male, a buck, and maybe one or two females, and you can have several babies to have a meat source. And I know that sounds crass, but it's the truth. You would have a protein source. You would have a fertilizing source where you can turn around and barter that fertilization or put in your gardens yourself, make a good quality fertilizer or compost for dirt cheap. And you can also sell the bunnies and help pay for supplemental feeding or to take care of other families. Quail is another option. I don't personally like raising quail, but that is an option that if you're in a smaller area, it's a smaller game bird, and it allows you to grow them sometimes when you can't grow chickens. Say they're just too loud. Now, all I'm saying with this video is you have to take a little responsibility to look at a meat source, look at a protein source, because the government and the regulatory bodies is pushing against it. You don't need to be eating chicken meat out of grown petri dishes that these ultra billionaires want you to eat that's so GMO modified that it will cause you issues with your health. There's no long-term studies on it, so it's not good. There's years and years and years of civilization where we've grown up on natural meats and we've been just fine. So let's don't change it now. No matter if you're young or you're old, no matter if you have a small yard, a big yard, or just a little area. We've talked about chickens, we've talked about rabbits, we've talked about quail. We've talked about the 5 reasons you should be growing these animals, or at least the chicken or the egg, making sure you are providing for your family. The importance of what you do is sustainability and taking care of your children. My kids who are, you know, very young, some of them, some of them are teenagers, but some of them are not. They can come out here and they can feed chickens and they can get eggs. And then I know very elder folks who are not in the best health who can still feed chickens and get eggs. It's good for us. It's good therapy, it's good sustainability, and it's a good way to take care of your family. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We do hope these videos help. I want you to understand there is value in every aspect of what you're doing, and that is from prepping canned foods, to buying dried goods, to raising animals, to growing these beautiful gardens. It's all about understanding the world that God gave us is beautiful, and it's there for us to maintain and keep healthy and safe. We want to do things in a good quality way to take care of our earth, but that God gave us these things to take care of us as humans. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.